Good morning, everyone. This is the session on journalist as manager. And those of you who are following the developments this morning outside of Boston will know that managing information, managing sources of information has never been a bigger challenge. There are tool considerations, there are platform considerations, there are ethical and standards considerations, and we have a terrific panel today who will be talking about all and any of these issues. We have Cory Haik, who's executive producer for digital news at the Washington Post, McAlister, who's the lead on the Guardian's Notice platform, Michael Rundle, who's the technology editor of Huffington Post UK, and Michael de Monte, I hope, yes, I can see the Scribble t-shirt, the well-branded Michael de Monte, founder and chief executive of ScribbleLive. Each of the panelists will speak for between 8 to 10 minutes. I will then mercilessly cut them off by drowning them out and shouting. We'll go through the panelists one by one, then we'll have a Q&A afterwards, and your questions to the panel are very much welcome. So we'll get cracking. So first up is Cory Haik, executive producer for digital news at the Washington Post. Cory.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me with my little guy? Okay, good. My name is Cory Haik. I'm the executive producer for the Washington Post, and I have the privilege of being here in front of you again. I was here last year. So I was asked to talk about the journalist as social manager, and it's a pretty easy topic. Actually, I just pulled together a few screen grabs, and I'm going to sort of freeform it because I feel like this is just so native to what the Washington Post newsroom is doing, to what newsrooms at large are doing, and it's very important as we did in so the slide I have in front of you is something called the grid, which you may or may not have seen, depending on my illusions of grandeur here, about this platform that the Washington Post built. This is something that we built for the presidential conventions that has sort of iterated past that, developed into our main sort of live coverage platform. And we built it originally around these huge events where we knew perhaps not that much news was happening, but there was constant conversation going on, and it was sort of an event-driven, speaker-driven event that we could actually cover in a lot of ways. Live video, live streaming video, which is important to us, live blogging to sort of capture what was going on. But the key here is curating the social web. I'm not sure of the exact statistic at this moment, but I would say somewhere between 13 to 20% of the users of news organizations are on social. And I'm sort of talking more about Twitter at the moment. And so I feel like my job as a journalist is to curate that social web for folks that actually aren't using social and bring that to those audiences. Part of our meeting users where they are. So what you see here at the top would be our streaming video, live blogging headlines, and then below it, in sort of a waterfall, we're curating the social web, and we're bringing in Instagrams, we're bringing in tweets, cinemograms, what have you. Here's another visual of it. This is actually from the presidential convention. So the cool thing about the grid is that it was our first responsively designed platform, and so it scales pretty easily. You can imagine it as one column on your mobile phone, and so these are various visuals from the actual presidential convention, and you could sort at the top. You could look at, and we whitelisted tons and tons of news organizations to flow in automatically, politicians and delegates from the actual convention, and then our own journalists, and then folks that we were seeing, we were actually hand moderating those in and serving that up to the user. So a great mobile presentation on tablet, it would scale to 2 columns, and then here on desktop, you see a large visual. This is the State of the Union. This is us iterating past the first product, and we actually created more sort of social engagement on the site itself through the ability to let users respond in real time, whether they agree or disagree with what was being said at that exact moment. And so we were taking in live user feedback on our site, and we were storing that data in real time, and then we did something else with it later, and I'll show you that. And here's the tablet version. So this was, again, a responsive platform. And it's, you know, it scales. It's very nice and mobile. So also, I'd like to throw out this term that I'm trying to coin, maybe you can help me with it. This, what I like to call adaptive journalism. Because if you saw this, I mean, you've heard of adaptive design, responsive design. If you would see this actually on your mobile phone, so in a one-column view, what you would get, you would not get the live video at the top. You would just have, do you agree, disagree with what you're watching right now on television. So a second screen experience if you're on a mobile phone. On tablet, will give you the live video. And then on desktop, the video is a little bit smaller, live blogging, and then all of the social content at the bottom. So that's my pitch for adaptive journalism to become the next buzzword. So I said that we were actually curating that agree-disagree data. So we did that in real time, collected that data, and then matched that with the social conversation that was going on in Twitter at the very moment that that person was speaking. And then we went back and worked all night and did what I like to call some sort of new journalism here, where we actually we matched all of the tweets and the sentiment of the moment, and if you would hit play and listen to Paul Ryan speaking, at the exact moment that he's speaking, you would see the sentiment on social and the sentiment on our site matched and displayed back. So you got a real sense for how the audience was feeling as they were actually watching that video the night before. And also we matched in the transcript, so you would see the text of the transcript displayed at the same time, and then you would see linked, where you see this post-politics at the very bottom in the middle, with a little favorite, our little star on it. That's us actually layering in the pieces of content, the pieces of journalism that we actually wrote off of that exact moment, and layering that in, so a very contextual experience. So curating in sort of the social feeling, the social sentiment, in with the actual journalism that we're doing, trying to pull the whole package together. This is the grid. This was around, you may or may not recall the event or the non-event, unevent that happened in DC a few months ago, Snowquester. It was in the middle of the sequester, and then there was a huge snowstorm. So this is important to me to display, because this is not only where we curated social, but this was really using geo in a new way. So we actually gave users social content based on where they were coming from. This is really leveraging the power of mobile and native location. So in this case, I was on desktop and I selected Loudoun, which is an area outside of DC. I selected Loudoun as the area, and what I got were Instagrams taken around the Loudoun County area. Instagram, as you know, you can opt in for location. And then then as a journalist, we're able to leverage that social information and display that back to users. And we also used power outage location that we got, and we display that in real time for Loudoun. And then on your phone, this is me looking at it from my phone, from my house in Arlington, Northern Virginia. And I open up the grid, and I immediately get information for Arlington, which is right where I live. And it told me that, 3,000 power outages in Northern Virginia. We were taking a snapshot of power outages in the area, processing that data, and pulling that into the grid. And if I scrolled, I could then see an Instagram from my neighborhood and a tweet from my neighborhood. We know that the geolocation, on Twitter is not always set for folks. Right now, we're getting about a 30% geo rate on tweets, which we think that's good enough to start with. Gives users a sense of things. Another way that we're curating social for the inauguration, I have a big emphasis on meeting users where they are. So for the inauguration, the presidential inauguration, folks were coming from all over the country. And I wanted to figure out where they were coming from and then sort of tell that story of them traveling. And so we decided that we should partner with Meetup. Meetup.org.com it's one of the platforms that helped Obama get reelected. I mean, this is a grassroots organizational tool. It's very social. And Meetup was certainly game to do a project with us around this. And so we actually, the Washington Post had a presence on Meetup. We created this call out called I'm There. And Meetup gave us an API, which we used. to pipe into the grid, another iteration of the grid. What you see there in that map view was an early response to folks saying that they were signing up on Meetup to say they were coming to the inauguration through our Washington Post Meetup page. And then when they gave us the location of where they were coming from, that automatically flowed into a map, and that built over time. And then eventually, the entire country was covered. And then another cool thing is that we were able to let reporters reach out to those folks on Meetup and connect with them, and they became sources for stories about the inauguration. So it's really that sort of full circle, social as part of journalism. And then you also see tweets here that are aggregated on our site using that same call up. I'm not sure how much time I have. 1 minute, okay. Social Cam. We did a partnership with Social Cam, which is social video that was seamlessly shared on Facebook. We used this tool, put it on our reporters' phones, and had them going around the presidential conventions and asking folks questions. We piped that into our site. It was a very nice presentation. And when the Pope announced his stepping down, the Washington Post knew who the potential successors were. We threw those against Twitter and did a search from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., which we felt like that was when the sort of strong social response was for potential candidates, successors, and then we tracked that and we visualized that and you can see the sort of fever lines below, and that's the social response per successor when that was announced. This is us using SoundCloud for oral arguments around the gay marriage. At the Supreme Court, it was a really big story, and the reason I had this example up, and it's my last one, is because using SoundCloud let us put that audio up quickly, but it also, you can see the little icons below, and I took this as an early screen grab. That's where we were actually letting users annotate and make comments on SoundCloud. And there were some really insightful and thoughtful responses to the oral argument. So that's using source content, putting that up there quickly, and letting and crowdsourcing and getting commentary back and responding. Really interactive and using social that way. And that's it from me.
Thank you, Cory. I'd like to introduce Matt McAlister from The Guardian. Talk about notice.
Yes. Jealous of your speaking president. Yeah, I'm Matt McAlister. My title at The Guardian is actually General Manager of New Digital Businesses. And what that means is I'm trying to look outside of the core of what's happening at The Guardian and trying to build some new things from the ground up that are commercial in nature, but that also reflect what we're trying to do at The Guardian in terms of our high-level mission and around open journalism. So the project that's been kind of the flagship for this experiment that is my role is Notice, which is a mobile publishing platform that we've been working on for a bit now. And what I thought I'd do here is walk through, we've got loads of tools now all around this platform. And I thought I'd walk through what we've got today, most all of which are free to use. So these are things that you guys can all take and use in your whatever it is that you guys are working on. And I'll do it through this one particular use case, which was a partnership that we did with the Notice team. Kind of sits a little bit outside of the Guardian. So what we try and do is go into various parts of the business and do partnerships. So this is an example of working with the Guardian music team, where we were trying to, the Guardian wanted to look at what the music scene looked like in kind of a live way across the UK. So what's happening tonight? And we encourage people to use a hashtag, GDNGig, and either tweet or use Instagram as you're out there. And then we would pull all that information into this crowd map. And then this crowd map lived on The Guardian and became kind of almost like a water cooler space where people were looking at, what's going on tonight? What are the hot spots? What was fun last night? and it was a big hit. We launched it in November. I think there were about 2,500 posts over the first couple of months. We're still using it, but we're thinking about other ways to kind of evolve it. But the tools behind it that make this work are all powered by Notice. So the first thing, so if you were to do something like this, if you wanted to create a crowd map like this using the social web, then here are some of the steps that you go about doing that. So the first thing would be to create a notice board on notice.com, and this is your own branded space, and it's pretty simple. It's kind of like setting up a blog, but this is an open space where anyone can participate in here. We've got analytics tools so that you can track activity that's happening on that notice board. Lots of ways to kind of customize the visuals. And then the next thing you want to do is go out there and get content that people are posting in the spaces where they already are, Twitter and Instagram, etc. So we built a tool called FeedWax, and what this does is gives you some ways of creating feeds. And these feeds can be from Twitter, from Instagram, from Flickr, YouTube. We've added a couple of other sources in there to see how they play out, like Daylife and Google News. You can also pull in spreadsheets. So if you've got a spreadsheet of location-related data, or if you want to pull in an RSS feed, you've got a geocoder that will add location information with some accuracy. And then that will generate a feed for you, which you can see on the right. So in this case, this is taking the GDN gig hashtag and seeing what those results look like. And that's just kind of a raw feed. But what you want to do is pull that into a space where you can then start to curate it. So this is what it looks like in the notice board, the GDN gig notice board, when you pour in Twitter, Instagram, Flickr, etc. For that hashtag. So there are different kinds of outputs that you might want to consider when you're curating stuff. There are maps, and then there are also galleries. And I haven't really worked out which is the more popular one. It seems like galleries might be kind of winning at the moment, but I think that might just be because people are using them more. I haven't done a full analysis on it, but the galleries seem to definitely capture people's imagination. I think the maps might be slightly more engaging in certain ways. So we built this tool called HashGordon, which gives you some options for how you identify the stuff that you actually want to pull into your site. So if you're taking a raw feed off of FeedWax and seeing everything out there, you might not necessarily want all that stuff to come up onto your website. So if you look on the left, you'll see some options there where you can determine some visual effects, but also you can use a person as a flag to determine which things actually go up on your site. So pick Alice in the newsroom and have her ID associated with this gallery, and every time she clicks the Notice This button on the notice board, then those are the images that go up, nothing else. So that gives you some protection against people trying to spam your photo gallery once you've published it on your website. We've also got some new moderation tools. So you guys may have seen the big announcement that the Guardian launched Guardian Witness this week. The technology behind that is Notice. So it's the Notice API that's powering all of that. And we built a few tools that they needed in the newsroom to make sure that that they could moderate effectively. It was a little bit more than needing to be able to just see a picture. They wanted to see the EXIF data. What data do you actually know about that picture? What's the, is that location relevant? Is it correct? Who was it that submitted it? There was a lot more information that the Guardian needed to know. And so we worked with them very closely. We also worked with Storyful to build this moderation tool. So here is kind of it's a wireframey view of what you would see And that's one of the pictures from that GDN gig hashtag. It all looks kind of okay. You can see the exit data on the bottom. The location seems all right. So that might be something you approve. There's also, yeah, there's other features in there that are quite handy, like seeing how many user flags have been raised for a particular image out there. And then all the activity history around the moderation gets tracked as well, so you can work collaboratively with a lot of people. But here's an example of EXIF data that might worry you. So if someone posted this particular picture, you'd see that actually this is sourced from it's copyrighted material. Now in this particular example, it's actually okay because it's coming off a feed from The Guardian itself. So The Guardian is publishing this, and we know about the source, so that's okay. That's kind of the main stuff that we have at the moment. A couple of things that we're going to roll out soon. I'm giving you a preview of a new tool called Maptastica, which we may try and launch next week. We're still working on it a little bit. But this is what makes it possible to take that map that we did for GDN Gig. We've done a couple others with The Guardian that look really nice and that are quite engaging, that show the images in the map in a nice way. We've made this tool expose that so that other people can use it and customize it a little bit, change the colors, add a logo, and also do some of the curation aspects of what comes out onto that map. The last thing to mention here is the API. So we've opened up the entire platform into this API. It's quite robust now. We had to upgrade a lot of the back end in order to meet the requirements that The Guardian had for Guardian Witness. It's all running on Amazon. We're using Elasticsearch. We're using OAuth 1.1, so you can also build apps that plug directly into it and post into this API. There's a lot of really nice features in here. It's all documented on notice.org if you wanted to start to use just the API itself and build your own apps. Part of the reason, it looks like a really strange collection of odd bits and pieces, but we've done that intentionally. We wanted to make a very clear statement about what the Notice platform is. We want this to be something that people are building off of. We want to build an ecosystem around this, and we want it to be open and encourage people to build businesses on top of it. Whereas some people, I think, have built APIs purely to suck people into their platform. We're trying to make a very clear statement. This is about pushing power back out into people's hands. Last thing to say, my sales guy would be really disappointed if I didn't point out that we do offer now, as of this week, Notice VIP, which is sort of a packaged version of all these tools for people who don't want to actually craft it all themselves. So there's an iPhone app, an Android app, website, several tools. The moderation tool itself is part of Notice VIP. We just launched that this week. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I'd like to invite Michael Rundle, the technology editor of Huffington Post UK up now. Michael, your 10 minutes starts.
Telling us the podium, presumably.
No.
Okay, great.
Before you start, is it right if everyone just announces their Twitter handles to the audience? I've been asked by if you do that.
Yeah, my name's Michael Rundle, which is R-U-N-D-L-E. It's just all one word. R-U-N-D-L-E.
Your Twitter handle?
Oh, I'm at Cory Haik, Coryhaik.
Matt McAlister, MattMcalister.
At Monte, Demonte.
Firstly, I'm gutted because there's no way I can follow the introduction of an application called McAlister, which is like the best name I've ever heard for a little application. We've heard quite a bit about cool tools that these guys are using to curate the web in new ways. So I guess it's worth just kind of talking about instead how that plays into everything that the Huffington Post does, both in terms of our newsroom and just how the site is every single day in every article we do. And I guess the way we think about it is we just try and reflect our medium, which is the web. And it's a really obvious point, but the first thing to say about the web is it's absolutely enormous. And like whenever I think about that, I always get reminded of something that's going to out me as a nerd, and if that wasn't already obvious by the Space Invader on the back of my iPad, I am a nerd. And it's this thing from Douglas Adams' book, which is, he imagines this machine that if you go in it, it shows you how big the universe is and how small you are in relation to it. And if you do it, your mind basically explodes. And I kind of feel like the same is true of the web. Like if anyone knew how much of it was out there, you might not be able to cope. And the thing that leads to is basically an ecosystem where people are curating stuff all the time for themselves and on news websites, and it's a constant churn. And I was kind of looking out at you guys earlier, and if you look, like more than half of you are looking down, reblogging stuff and writing stuff and reading stuff and probably checking up the news in Boston and texting people all the time. And that's kind of just how we live now. And so that's really what the Huffington Post tries to reflect in everything it does. We're on the web, we're part of the web, and we try and reflect everything we do, the ethos of that in everything we do. And I guess that leads into how we approach curation. And basically we want to create engaging content, right? And stuff that people want to read. And we cover everything from the highbrow politics and news to celebrities, entertainment, technology. And we try and bring together the best of the web in one place, in every news story that we do, and in every tool we use on social media. And we do that in a lot of different ways, but I mean, one thing that's key to this is kind of a respect for other sources, and that there's a huge amount of material out there, as I said. So I think we're probably the only mainstream news site that links directly to another news organisation from our front page and from our front page splash. And we do that. There's no intermediary HuffPost page. It goes straight through. And we do that when someone has something that's so good that we want to tell the readers about it, but it's not something that we feel right about bringing into our site. So an example would be earlier this week, the New York Times had a great editorial from a prisoner in Guantanamo Bay that was dictated to one of their reporters and then uploaded as an editorial. And the Huffington Post worldwide linked straight through to that from our front page splash, because it was so obvious that that was the thing that people wanted to talk about. And there's really nothing else we need to say except, here's the New York Times piece, go and read it. But then, more of what we do is bringing together lots of different news sources into one place on every article. I don't know if I can find I always get terrified putting the web page up because you never know what's going to be on it at any one time. But I'm sure this would be a good example. But so, with a story like what's happening in the Boston Marathon, our editors are constantly looking around the web to different sources. So we've got Twitter and different images from different places, links to American media. We're putting in stuff on our live blog all the time, and that's not something that we do as part of a specific application. It's just something, that's how our newsroom works, basically. I mean, we're reading as much as we can all the time, we're pulling stuff together, and we're trying to be as engaging as possible, because that's what our readers want, really. But I guess the question is, and the other thing to say is that we're also curating opinion all the time, so the Huffington Post isn't just a news platform, it's an opinion platform. So in the UK, we have about 5,000 bloggers which we've gathered over about 2 years. And these are people who write voluntarily and want to be on our site and use our platform. And we're actively curating people to join that platform all the time. We also have Huffington Post Live, which is it's a kind of an equivalent of a 24-hour news channel, but it's run pretty much through Google Hangouts, and it's online all the time on the Huffington Post. And we're drawing in, people who are just calling in from their laptops and giving us information, reporters, news sources, and comments. But I guess the question, I'm sure we'll touch on this, is the best way to do that. And there are ethical issues involved as well, which I'm sure we'll get onto. But I think for us the main thing is having respect for authoritative sources, for other people's work, but also for our readers' time and our readers' interest. So, there's definitely a fine and important distinction between linking to outside sources and using other people's work. And we have very strong guidelines and feelings about the best way to do that. I'm sure we'll go into it, but it's pretty much just be a good person, right? I mean, if you're linking to other work, I think everyone instinctively knows when that's right and when that's not right. But we pretty much link to at least 3 or 4 sources in every news piece we do. And it's important to us that we do that, and that we think about the right way to do it. But I mean, the other thing is that what makes a good curator is someone who is interested in their topic and who is reading all the time and is able to bring in all kinds of different material. And again, that's what we try and teach our journalists and editors to do, is just to stay interested in their topic, and that really makes a good curator to me. So, I mean, the other thing to say though is, again, I'm sure we'll get into it, is curation is kind of a funny word, because another word for it is editing, and another word for editing is just journalism. And in a sense, what all these things are showing is that we're pretty much doing the same stuff that journalists and editors have always done, which is bring together information from lots of different places, read it, organise it, understand it, and represent it for an audience, and then tell them other places to go if they want to know more about a topic. And that's pretty much been what people have been doing for 400 years, and it's what we do in the Huffington Post every day. And that is always a constant source of ethics and also guidelines for how to make engaging content. And really that's what we want to do at the end of the day. And that builds into how we use Facebook or how we think about tools like you guys are building, or Storify, or all these other things that exist on the web. But at the core of that is just we want to make something visually interesting, authoritative, that readers engage with, and that makes us distinctive. And that's really what the Huffington Post has been founded on and continues to do in the UK every day. So I guess that's just a basic introduction, but yeah, I guess I'll move on. We can open up to questions sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Michael. So our final speaker is Michael Monte, the chief exec and founder of ScribbleLive.
Thank you. About 3 decades ago, I kind of started in the publishing business. Ever since the advent of desktop publishing and then what came out of that was the creation of CD-ROMs and the idea of big data, and then obviously the internet and where we are today. Publishing has always been at sort of the core of what I've been involved with, and storytelling has always been a major part of that. And about 5 years ago, I was working at one of the largest media companies in Canada and noticed something interesting. And the thing that we noticed, and actually my business partner that I met with at the time, Darren Waters, was that the way people were consuming stories was changing. Twitter was kind of just making its rounds and becoming a publishing tool. Facebook, I think, was only at a mere 150 million users or something along those lines. We're talking about 2008 now. But one of the biggest problems, and this is something that we realized within the organization, is that there were numerous amounts of content management systems, none of which were any good. Certainly none of which could really take advantage of the new way people were consuming information. And that new way is one post at a time, one image at a time. You know, think of your Twitter feed, think of your Facebook feed, your Google Plus feed. That's the kind of communication level that's taking place in most people's lives today. That's the way stories are being told to you. It's a status update world. And what was required was a tool that could still empower storytelling and journalistic integrity and transparency and this ability to tell stories like people are consuming them. And that's what we built. So we built a product called ScribbleLive. Coming up on our 5th anniversary now. It's been an interesting ride. When we started in this business, the idea of live blogging, as a lot of people sort of use the vernacular, was kind of a glimmer in most people's eyes. It was really only being done by tech groups. But soon, within a couple of years, we really started to see it take off in major news organizations. And one of our first customers was Thomson Reuters about 4 years ago. And they've been instrumental in sort of laying the foundation of how stories are being told with this new technology. And from that, obviously, has come a need to curate as well. So obviously, our major technology advantage is empowering people to create these stories and to publish them. But ideally, because the world is changing, and to Michael's point that he just made a few minutes ago, curation isn't something new. It's something that you've been doing since the inception of journalism and storytelling. It's just now, it's a lot more complex. And there's a lot more source. There's a lot more source that is potentially dangerous, as well as it is advantageous to connect to. So in doing so, we made sure that our technology, and I guess I'm the only official platform supplier here today. We have all the necessary news properties represented by, I guess I'm the guy selling tech here. And we built tech to essentially help you tell stories and gather information in the most easy and effective ways. And you can't see the big picture here, but I'll just try to show you some of the things that we've provided here. This stream that you kind of see is essentially the live stream. And by the way, I failed to mention that our technology is all about real time. It's all about live. So anything that gets published in this product and anything that you're collecting is instantly pushed out to your property, or it's pushed out to your website, or your mobile device, or your tablet device. For us, it's all about real time. Of course, there's all kinds of mechanisms in there to ensure that the individuals that are publishing are the correct individuals, and you can curate them as well. But this is essentially our stream on the left-hand side of the screen. And on the right-hand screen is our access, our access to external connections. And you can see here that we have comments and moderation, etc. Obviously there's a Twitter feed, and you can simply type in something and start searching. And hopefully the internet will work for me now. Of course, no, it's not going to. Let me try another one. Pardon me? No, I know, but I connected. Okay, imagine stuff. flowing, and all kinds of great content coming up. Anyway, so there we go. Boom, and it happened. So here we are searching, and then when you come across something that's applicable to the story that you're telling, for us it's instantaneous publishing, if this is working fast, and you instantly publish something into the stream. So, for us, it's we keep providing as many connections as we can. For instance, you see Facebook and Twitter and YouTube here. You see Instagram. You see access to Wikipedia. But on top of that, we have the ability to simply just go out to the web and grab stuff. And I'll just try to show you some quick examples of that, and hopefully that will work as well. I'm going to pop over to another window here, and maybe a lot of you use this package called Scribd. Anybody? Yeah? Interesting little tool. So I can simply just grab embed codes, for example, and paste them in. and the product takes care of everything else, usually, again, if the internet's going to crunch the way it's supposed to. And there you go. So instantly I went and grabbed some source material that might be applicable to the story you're telling. In this particular case, I'm obviously on a terrorism theme here, not because it's what I like to talk about, but obviously there's a lot of noise around it right now having to do with Boston. So it's exceptionally easy just to go out and grab stuff. Here's another quick example. You want a YouTube video? Sure, just grab the code, paste it in, hit save, and instantly grabbing YouTube's. This is how easy the technology works. It's built for speed, so to speak. Vimeo, same thing. Grab a piece of code, paste it in, post. So you can see that we've really built the technology around empowering the storyteller to get out there and grab whatever they need from the social side, or basically from the internet, period, by making it extremely easy for them not to have to know anything. You simply just grab a piece of code, you grab a URL, and you paste it into a box, and the box takes care of everything else. And that social part of it has been pretty important as we move into more and more opportunities to grab social. Here's an image again. By the way, I don't recommend you just go out and grab copyrighted material. I'm just using it as an example here. So I could just paste in a code, and the image appears instantly. And remember, this could be accessing data on your own website. This is, doesn't necessarily have to be stuff that you're curating from the larger web, but it could be stuff that you're curating from your own local. And for example, I could pop over here to, let's see, I think there's a CNN here. And if I can find the embed code somewhere, which I cannot. So we'll skip over that one. All right. How many minutes have I left?
You have 1 minute.
Excellent. So I'll just show you quickly, some of the great examples of some of the technology, or some of the customers of ours. MSN News, again, obviously it's tragic when a leader dies, but essentially the story ended there, right? I mean, you actually got the end of the story instantly. So, what do you do? You're talking about, someone's life story and how they affected, people over the course of the last, several decades of their life. Well, what you do is you go out to the social web and you start grabbing things, and you start, trying to tell that story in a way that, represents how that person was viewed, over their lifespan in politics, or where they sort of ended up in their towards the later end of their life. I mean, it's all about going out and meshing a story that you're telling that is, authoritative and original, but it's simultaneously going out and grabbing the stuff that's important to add as context around that story. I think I'll end it there. And I will never use technology again.